Josh and Frankie. What a couple of dumb shits.
Hello, Primates! You found Primus tracks. Congratulations! There are many places to find Primus tracks, as you well know, perhaps. At Primus Tracks on Instagram and Threads. PrimusTracksPod@gmail.com is the email address if you want to email Josh and/or Frankie, but really Josh. And there is a Facebook page maintained by that other guy. It is appropriately titled Primus Tracks. You can find that by searching Facebook. I am Josh. He is coming to us live from the 39th floor of Primus Tracks Towers. Everything he sees below him was delivered by the hamburger train. It's Frankie Berestein.
Hi, Josh.
Hello, Frankie. How are you today as we careen towards La Navidad?
Everything is fantastic, but you know where my mind is at.
I have to imagine your mind is frittering towards New Year's Eve, as many minds are at this time of year.
Yes.
Absolutely. And though, of course, if you have not been listening, Frankie and I will both be at New Year's Eve. I have to say, beating up two people is really difficult, so make sure you make an informed choice as to which person you go after. Well, today we're talking about 48 hours to go. We are on to the penultimate track of the Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains' sole record, The Big Eyeball in the Sky. As we often do, Frankie, before we talk about the track for today, we have some miscellaneous debris. I have some miscellaneous debris, Frankie. And today's miscellaneous debris from me, for those of you paying attention to the Primus socials, is that New Year's Eve has been rebranded. As you may have noticed, there was the Fisherman's Chronicles with a corresponding costume ball planned in October, and then some events transpired that changed the band's approach, and it has officially been rebranded Claypool Gold for New Year's Eve, with what's being described as the unholy alliance of Primus, the Frog Brigade, and the Holy Mackerel. Now, Frankie, we had been clued into the presence of members of the Frog Brigade and Holy Mackerel supporting Primus after the departure of Tim Alexander, but this confirms it and also puts them on the bill, which may lead, I'm speculating, to a Sasanta-style stage setup with the band's members interchangeably playing tunes from those three acts. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking that there could be emphasis on the Holy Mackerel band, Frog Brigade material, and Primus, but I was thinking that they would be appearing on stage individually, as it happened in 2016 with the Silver Anniversary Extravaganza.
Right.
But all members on stage at the same time sounds possible as well. In either case, I guess they must be rehearsing the hell out of it.
They did state they would be that Primus would be augmented by the members of these bands in the previous announcement. So that tells me we might see a Sasanta style with a revolving cast, or like a South Park style, right, with revolving members for different tunes. And so I'm curious to see those arrangements, of course, and really excited to see those arrangements. Because we might get something special. I think that portends, of course, to, on the drums, seeing Paolo Baldi and Brain.
Yes.
I think we're also going to see a healthy dose of Merv on guitar, maybe some Adam Gates shenanigans during the Primus Unholy Alliance sets. I believe we'll see Mike D and Scarrick as well. Mike D did repost the Claypool Gold announcement. And one of our loyal listeners clued me in to the fact that Harry Waters will not be in attendance.
Oh, he's busy?
One of our listeners reached out to Harry, and Harry said he would not be there. So that's what I've got from miscellaneous debris. A lot to speculate on and look forward to for New Year's Eve, especially around what in the world are these guys going to play?
Okay, Josh, are you ready for this?
I'm seated. I don't have a seat belt, but the chair arms are down, and I am tucked pretty... Hold on a second. Okay, now I'm tucked securely into the desk, so I don't believe I'll fall over.
Shout out to Gary Twemblow. Gary, thank you so much for this piece of information. Gary single-handedly cleared up one of our most enduring podcast mysteries.
Gary, what have you done?
Hipshot is a tuner that that's the name of the brand. It's called Hipshot, and if you visit their website, they have quite a healthy selection of bass tuning machines. And Gary pointed out that Les has referred to his bass as a slab on more than one occasion. So it is finally clear. Hipshot from the slab. It's a bass tuner.
Not at all what I would have expected.
Me either.
Gary.
We were thinking about corpses and all kinds of wild stuff, but
yeah,
it's a bass tuner.
I'm sticking with corpses. Gary, you present a compelling case, but I am not completely... No, I think that's really cool. And, man, that just stands to reason that somebody in the studio said, hand me the hip shot from the slab or whatever, or get that hip shot off the slab or whatever it is, So it's something like that, right? That completely stands to reason given the improvisational nature and completely spontaneous spirit of recording this record. So, Gary... I'm buying it.
Much appreciated, Gary.
Great piece of information. Wow. You weren't kidding when you said I had to prepare myself.
Yep.
With that newly minted piece of information in our minds, Frankie, let's return to the Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains record to discuss 48 Hours to Go. This one clocks in at 4 minutes and 13 seconds. Per the record credits, although my ripped track says 4:15. It's track 10 on the record, and it's got our 4 principals, of course. This one, I'm sure, has some kind of live history, Frankie.
Yes. Just hang on 1 second, please.
What are you, ordering some hip shots? What's going on over there?
Hip shot. I'm going through my archive. Excuse me.
Whatever you have playing right now sounds like elevator music. While I wait.
It's Professor Nut Butter's House of Treats.
Wow, when it's really distant and tinny, it sounds like I'm on hold with the IRS. It's amazing.
That's crazy. 48 Hours to Go was premiered on September 29th, 2004 at the Roxy in Boston, performed by Bucket of Bernie Brains throughout their 2004 tour, and performed once by the Fancy Band. Wow.
What?
As the encore to their July 7, 2005 show at the Fox Theater in Boulder. Jeez. The song became a major jam vehicle during the tour and often prompted Tommy the Cat and Roundabout improvisations from Les. There you go. 48 hours to go.
You sounded surprised by the inclusion of a Fancy Band performance of this. Are these notes that you've taken in the past that you're returning to?
Yeah, these are my notes for the illustrations back when I was doing that project.
Ah, so these notes are years old.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. Well, the good news...
but, I mean, 48 Hours to Go has not been performed since.
I was going to say, fortunately, we're on a record where the notes haven't changed too much on the interim, other than a few Frog Brigade performances. Well, let's take a look at this one. We're on to the second to last record in my quick capsule review of the tune, Frankie, is AF Funky. That's what I wrote in my notes. It certainly has a bit of an off-kilter bass groove that Brain matches with his drums, which I really appreciate. It's not straight ahead by any means, but you can find the one. And so it's off-kilter enough, but it's danceable if you were so inclined. I really like the grooves that are present throughout. There are a couple of distinct parts to this track that really catch me. And one of the things that really catches me is the variety of vocalizations. As you all know by now, if you've listened to this podcast at any appreciable length of time, Les Claypool records his vocals in private. Nobody else is in the room. So this is one where I don't think anybody knew what was coming. and he put all these different vocalizations on it, made it a completely different song than to what it probably sounded like as a scratch track instrumental. So I just want to play a few parts, Frankie. Let's explore 48 Hours to Go. I want to play the intro so we can get a taste of that AF funkiness first. I really love what Bucket and Bernie are doing on the edges there, but I'm really listening to Brain. His groove there is pretty nasty. I'm a big fan of that. What are you hearing in the intro that's catching your attention?
The cohesion that the band displayed throughout the entire record.
Ooh, okay, so you're hearing some... Because it's funny, because it sounds like it starts really loosely here, but then when they all come together after about 15 seconds or so, there is a lot of cohesion, and they do sound like they've got it together, which is funny because to the normies, it probably sounds like a mess, you know. But this is another example of these guys being together in a strange way or in an unconventional way, I suppose. Which I think that's the main criticism when people are first exposed to more complicated or more esoteric jazz music. Too. They can't find the one. They also don't know who's leading, and for some reason, you know, they just can't find a melody or anything, and it can be difficult. So that's what I remember when I first started getting into jazz music, was just trying to find where that was, and then somebody told me, you got to listen to the bass player in this band, you got to listen to the drummer in that band, and then I started to pick up on who was leading things, and it started to make sense. So I think there's something in that vein here. You can tell me I'm completely wrong if you like.
No, I agree with you.
Okay, good. We only have 47 hours to go. We have to move here, Frankie. I'm going to move ahead to about 1 minute and 7 seconds, because this is where we, after that first verse, we start to get a lot of different vocalizations. And there's a story, of course, being told with these lyrics and vocalizations. I think they're voicing different perspectives, and maybe even different people, I suppose, maybe organizations, if you want to try to dig that deep for these lyrics. You know what I do. Love that falsetto. I love how it just falls out there too, and then we get into more of the song. So that scratchy voice, which is just business, you know. That's given the lyrical content, of course. That seems to me to be the government perspective on what's going on there. But leading up to the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And then that run,
which was a recurrent theme throughout the record.
Oh yes, this frustration with what the United States was doing. What is this? The fourth track that references it in the chronology of the record, and then we get another one at the end of the record. There are many mentions of it. This one is on the nose. But all those different vocalizations are really fun, and the just how they bring it down there. For those, to give room for those voices, because Brain really brings it down. The bass is much more muted, and so on. So those vocalizations are really fun for me to track throughout the tune. There's also, I'm going to back up a little bit, because near the end of the first minute, there's a pretty cool groove here that kind of passes you by if you're not listening closely. Yeet. Oh yeah. So whatever Bernie's doing there sounds really cool. That's just a little part, probably one of my favorite little parts of the tune. Now, I hope Gary's listening, Frankie, because we have another mystery on our hands. At about
Go ahead.
at about at about the 2 minute mark of this track, there's some kind of sound effect being played in the background. It lasts for almost 20 seconds. I can't place it. It could just be nonsense field noises. It could be something with significance, but I'm not sure what it is. Is this something you've caught before in the past?
Let's hear.
All right, it's kind of buried in the background. It sounds like a field recording of some sort, or just maybe something ambient.
In the 2 minute mark.
Yeah, it almost sounds like, I couldn't tell if it's dogs howling or sirens.
I could have sworn that was some kind of sound clip trying to emulate the dogs mentioned in the lyrics.
That's where my mind goes, whether it's dog howls or sirens, but it may be modulated in such a way, but it sounds like it's it could be one of those royalty-free samples that Les is known to use because they're royalty-free. But it could be a movie sample too, because he snuck those into his works over the years. So I wasn't entirely sure if it was a wolf howling at the moon or something else.
Also, around the 1 minute 30 second mark, Les has some treatment on his vocals. They have an echo. They sound very distant.
Let's play that part.
Run away and live to sodomize another day. You ain't got time to shit or pray, cause the dogs of rationale have gone astray.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty hard echo he's got on there, for sure. That certainly provides some atmosphere. The other thing I appreciate with that line is he said sodomize another day, but in the lyrics he spells it like Saddam Hussein. Sodomize. Get it? Okay. Oh, I want to hear that ooh.
They've gone astray.
There it is. Why not? There's a really cool transition leading into Buckethead solo. This transition is just a cool little part, and much like we've said throughout this record, Frankie, they give us these little pieces and then move on to the next thing because they've got so many ideas to mess around with. So this part has always tickled me on this track. That's a really cool dissonant line for me. I'm a big fan of that. And that they're taking it up a step with, especially with what Les is doing on the bass there. So that's a lot of fun. And then that leads us into a pretty cool Buckethead solo. However brief it may be, he does a lot of cool Buckethead things. He works it all into 15 seconds there. It's not quite a Pilcher Squad solo, Frankie, but it's close enough for me.
It's cool.
It is cool. And then from there to the end of the track, we get a lot of repetitions of 48 Hours to Go. And, things kind of fall off the rails as they tend to do on these Bucket of Burning Brains tunes. And that's it. And we're out. So for as structured as it seems to be, it does feel very loose. But there's a lot of little highlights in this one for me. I think when I first picked up this record and ran it through a few times to familiarize myself, this was not a favorite. But I think the vocalizations on this one allow it to stand out for me.
It might have gone unnoticed through the years because of its placing on the record. It comes in quite late, and it doesn't stand out as much as the rest of the songs to leave that big of an impression. So it just kind of comes and goes without major impact.
Hmm.
I mean, it could even be treated as kind of a palate cleanser before Ignorance is Bliss, which is a lot more compelling and it's quite a great album closer.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, 48 Hours to Go is all right in the context of the record, but I don't think it has ever stood out beyond that.
I think that's in part because there are no major gymnastics taking place, like on the next track,
Yeah.
"Ignorance is Bliss." It's not a lengthy, winding instrumental that tells a story through music. It's a song, and it's there, and I think it does what it's supposed to do. But I think it's mostly, and I know the lyrics came later, but it does seem like it's more set up to be a lyrical tune
What I do
than an
appreciate
instrumental tune.
about it is that it's controlled chaos, as I mentioned at the beginning. The instrumentals are on point.
Yeah, and I'll point back to Brain's grooving on this one. It is so cool. I mean, he's playing some really cool stuff, and of course, as we know, Brain has pocket for days, months, weeks, years, decades, and he just holds it down. But really has some fantastic embellishments and makes things super funky. So I love listening to that guy play drums. He's so fascinating. It's funny because we end up comparing, Brain and Tim and Jay and so on. But I think Brain, it just comes up with such compelling drum lines, especially when he's, listening to what Les is doing and locking in with him, that he does some really cool, funky stuff and really takes him places that Tim or Jay wouldn't.
And
And
that's
that's,
just, I mean, and that's just the record, because when
yeah,
you go through the live recordings, it's amazing how Brain responds in real time to
yeah,
a lot of things that Les is doing.
yeah.
Like that moment with the slide on the rainbow that we highlighted on Thai Noodles, you couldn't rehearse that. I mean, it's incredible how that just happened.
Absolutely. 100%. These guys they are just so in tune with one another. Brain is such a great listener, obviously. I had a thought to finish and it's gone. Oh well. That's that. It'll just get
That's
like
life.
cut off on the edit. It'll just
Yeah.
be like, meh, let's go to the next thing. The next thing is lyrics. Let's talk about these lyrics, Frankie. Obviously, Les is not happy with what's been going on an international level with the United States and its government attempting to justify an invasion of different countries. Like I said earlier, it's on the nose. He's really letting them have it here. But what's interesting, he has a lot of repetition in his lyrics. In the first couple of verses, we have an AAB rhyme scheme, but then he gets into this repetition of burrowing deep. He says that a
Like a
lot.
tick, like a tick.
Yep, like a tick, like a tick, like a tick, man. Which is funny because obviously he's talking about the insect, and I don't know if you've ever been bitten by a tick, Frankie, or removed one from an animal. It's gross. So to burrow, yeah, that imagery is, I suppose, pretty fitting for somebody who's burrowing in to try to get away from something and not be extracted. There's some suggestion there that people will be plucked. Because I remember there was talk of a draft. I don't know how far that went, but there was talk of reinstituting the military draft around that time. Other repetitions include run, 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 run away, and then that sodomize another day with that wordplay, as it's spelled Saddam, as in Saddam Hussein, and not Sodom or sodomize, as in the
Very clever.
Yep, as in the other spelling. Also, the other repetition of "smells of high horse," "smells of high horse" is a fun one. Of course, that's a cultural idiom. Someone who's on their high horse is demonstrating or otherwise trying to show their superiority over somebody else, whether it's moral, intelligence-wise, or what have you.
Record collection.
The record collection. Well, somebody on a high horse with their record collection.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Who's got a high horse record collection to speak of? It's probably you.
Yeah, me or there was this guy from the UK with a legendary record collection. Actually, many important artists went through his radio show. Do you know who I'm talking about?
King Biscuit Flower Hour. Am I right?
John Peel.
Oh, Peel sounds familiar.
Massive record collection. Oh, also, another person with an impressive record collection is none other than the guy that did guest vocals on Delicate Tendrils in the Holy Mackerel record.
Oh, Henry Rollins. I've
Henry
seen
Rollins.
video of his record collection. It
Yes.
is massive. I've never heard a number attributed to it, but it has to be 10,000 or more, right?
Perhaps.
That man has so much vinyl. But he doesn't seem to lord it over other people like someone on their high horse would. Frankie, of course, known to walk the streets of Mexico City flaunting his record collection, showing the spreadsheet and how he has them graded and organized. It's pretty impressive. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on in these lyrics, and of course he's being critical of the Bush administration. And it's taken me back because that build up to the invasion, I remember a lot of ultimatums being issued by the United States, the UN getting involved to try to get more inspections around the claims that there were WMDs and even nuclear weapons being stored or developed in Iraq. And it was quite a fraught time, which of course ultimately those WMD weren't there, and it was based on faulty intelligence and that sort of thing. And I don't recall that anybody ever really paid the price for that. But there's some interesting lines in here. He says, are you rooting for the Yanks and the clanky old tanks? Of course.
That's a great line.
I love that rhyme. It's a great rhyme. And of course, Yanks is short for Yankees, which is slang for Americans. And then he says something about the kroner and the francs. Kroner being the old, not the old, kroner being the currency of Norway, francs being the old currency of France. So he's using those to great effect. I know that the government of France was highly outspoken in opposition to the U.S. invasion of Iraq. I looked it up and confirmed that the government of Norway also was. I really like the scheme change at the end, Frankie, where he says, when your 48 hours are done, will they find that smoking gun? That's the WMD. A basket of snipe, a bucket of tripe, some asses to wipe. It's all just hype, because there's oil to swipe. That is a great run of IPE rhymes there. And they are all on theme. Of course, a bucket of tripe. If it's tripe, that means it's nonsense. And of course, the oil to swipe is pretty self-evident. The asses to wipe is funny to me. I like that one.
Les is a wordsmith.
He's really letting him have it here. He's just setting it out. It's all about oil. And that was not an uncommon viewpoint leading up to this event, the invasion in spring of 2003. Despite the cultural idioms and imagery, I think we can catch on to what's being said here, that this countdown's happening. If you've got your wits about you, you're going to get out of the way, or at least hide away, so you don't get whipped up and involved in it. Yes. That beautiful sound can only mean one thing. It's time for Primate's Takes. If you want your take about the track up for discussion, read right here on the podcast, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Primus Tracks. There are many ways to support Josh and Frankie over there, but the universal constant is Primate's Takes. Now, we're recording this near the holiday season, and I completely understand that it's difficult to get up out your seat and give your takes when the holiday season is coming, Frankie. But we did hear from Anthony Del Prete, go Bills, who had the following to say about 48 Hours to Go. I like to listen to Les's playing and tone on this song. Has a driving funk to my ears. There's definitely other cool musical moments as well throughout, but meh on the full track mostly.
Thank you, Anthony.
It sounds like he's mirroring, in part, what you had to say. I don't think you used the term meh, but you certainly placed it within the context being between Jackalope and ignorance is bliss, it may be somewhat overlooked. We appreciate all the takes, even if they're not glowing. It's good to know what the primates are thinking. Maybe people are tired of this record, Frankie. Maybe it's not good.
Maybe people are done with it by now.
They're done. They can't stand this creativity being tossed out by these four men. They hate it.
It's too artistic.
Play some Primus. Why don't you guys talk about Primus? I forget. We already established what we're talking about next, and I can't remember. Whole lot of solo stuff. Strap in, people.
That reminded me of the guy with his daughter at the Bucket of Ernie Brain show. He's when Les singles out the child and the father goes like, she's a huge Primus fan, and Les replies, well, this isn't Primus.
You brought her the wrong show.
Yeah.
It's very funny. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The jam vehicle. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. A true jam vehicle. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The jam vehicle. Live cuts.
What's going on here? Shards of bone in my anus.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. Just like herpes. Our first live cut. I wouldn't know, Frankie. That's a joke. Frankie's sitting there going, "Oh, that's gross. That dude's nasty."
Nasty.
Our first live cut is from San Francisco, California at the Warfield. We're going to hear
the Halloween show?
Once again, you've provided very little metadata, but I'm going to guess it's Halloween because it's San Francisco.
It's got to be Halloween, yes. Totally.
Let's enjoy the intro. Oh, that sounds nice.
You got 48 hours to go. Best start wrestling with your soul. Cause the Texas boys got a big hard on for you, man. You got 48 hours to go. Best climb up out your hole. Oh, burrowing deep, burrowing deep, burrowing deep, burrowing deep, deep like a tick, man. Like a tick, man.
Damn! I want to let that go. That's funky, man. They're pushing that tempo. Sounds great, too. That's a nice live cut. I like the way that it's structured for that live setting with the verse and the notes he's accenting while he's singing that verse. I didn't talk about some of those lyrics, but the Texas boy, we all know who that is. That'd be George W. Bush. So there's a lot of like I said, there are a lot of oblique references, but you can catch on if you know what the topic is. By the way, this one is about 7 minutes long, this live version. We're going to go to about a third of the way through and see what's going on. Bernie's going on. Oh, yeah. I am digging on this one, Frankie. I like this live cut.
The Halloween show is epic.
All the way around? Every single live cut?
All the way.
All right, that's a show I need to dig into then fully. You've sampled from it numerous times on this record. I think I'm finally convinced to listen to the Halloween show. I really love the recording quality. Was that a soundboard?
It's taken from the official website soundboards of 2004.
Sounds fantastic.
C2b3 live.
The dearly departed C2b3 live. Let's move now to Denver, Colorado at the Fillmore on the same tour. This one is also a soundboard from C2b3 live. This version, wow, 13 minutes, Frankie. How could you possibly stretch out 48 hours into 13 minutes? That's impressive. I'm going to cue it up about halfway through the track. What's going on here? In the words of Tim Sawyer, what's going on here? Listening to this, Frankie, it makes me want to hear Lesson Brain record an album with Tower of Power. I would love that. I want to hear Lesson Brain make a straight funk record. With being backed by some kind of established band. I would love that. That is funky. I'm really enjoying this cut as well. I think this one as a live cut is phenomenal so far. Goodness. Really funky. Let's move ahead and hear what it sounds like almost 9 minutes into this track. Are they tired yet? Hell no!
You got 48 hours to go. Let's start wrestling with your soul. 'Cause the Texas boy's got a big heart on for you, man. You got 48 hours to go. Let's climb up out your hole. I'm burrowing deep, burrowing deep, burrowing deep. Like a ticket, 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 like
I did want to see how they'd get out of that. it's bucket noodling. That's funny. Really cool presentation on that one. That was a lot of fun. This sometimes, Frankie, when you bring these live cuts, it elevates the track for me, and I think this is a perfect example of that. I'm feeling this one even more after hearing these live cuts.
The record is wonderful, but the tour really took these songs to a whole other level.
I think it would behoove me to listen to some of these soundboards. Thanks for the link.
I can honestly tell you that on one hand, I haven't spent as much time with these shows as I have with Fromage and Hallucinogenetics. I mean, even to this day, Fromage and Hallucinogenetics still hold surprises for me every now and then. But I can honestly tell you that with these Bucket of Burning Brain soundboards, as I go through them yearly, a lot of these shows, it's still like listening to them for the first time. They're just wild. I still haven't gotten fully acquainted with all the treasure trove of music that is in those recordings.
That tells me that there are unplumbed depths for myself, because I know that you go whole hog, and so I got plenty of digging to do. In the meantime, I can say this: 4 to 8 hours to go. Time's up. You've been tracked. Next time, Frankie, a towering album closer.
You know, Josh, I know this steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling me, my brain, that is juicy and delicious. After 9 years, you know what I realize? Ignorance is bliss.
Outstanding. Great pull, Frankie.
For all you film buffs out there, that's Cypher from Matrix.
Even I knew that one, so that was an easy one. Let's do this, Frankie. We haven't done this for a while, and we should. Let's thank our patrons over there at patreon.com/Primus Tracks. The following people are supporting Josh and Frankie, whoever they are, at Patreon, and hopefully enjoying video of episodes and the monthly hangouts and the bonus pods and whatever nonsense I post from time to time, or cool videos of Frankie's high horse record collection that he sends me every once in a while for us to look at. So let's thank our Primatrons, and let's do so with a bit more Bernie brains behind it. Why not? The following people, one might argue, are burning their money over at patreon.com/Primus Tracks. Thanks to Zach M. for your contributions. Brian Bergy. Audrey Myers, thank you very much. Rowan Bradbury Eason, Frankie, is one of our patrons. I definitely misread it as Rowan Atkinson the first time.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Also, thanks to Mike Taylor Mosier, Bryce Sherrill. Thank you, Bryce. Cam
Bryce.
Covington. A lot of these folks, by the way, we're going to see at New Year's Eve. So hopefully we see more of, that we know of at least, more of these people at New Year's Eve than we're expecting. Mickey Waters, thank you so much for your support and participation on the Patreon. IDK Bai. Lance Halterman. Sachko will be at New Year's. Tom Dastic. Brittany Ray, thank you so much for your support. Edwin Allen Richard I'll say that right. Edwin Allen Richards IV, our landed gentry. And Frankie's favorite name that I say every time, Deluge Nuts. Jordan Kahn, our resident fish expert. Matt Crakely, thank you so much. Trish, for those of you watching on video, this beautiful crochet of Frankie's Caesar Cheese album art, that's by Trish. She is incredible. Less is more, thank you so much for your contributions. Eric, thank you for your support. That's Eric in Australia. John Gatwood, Mr. Tamby Meatfoot. Haven't heard from old Tamby Meatfoot in a while. And thanks to Brooks, What You Gonna Do About It Delight. I think more of our Primatrons need to take advantage of the naming convention on Patreon to be whatever they want. Ryan Rashawn, thank you. Joseph Pebbler. Nick the Dutchie, that's Nick in the Netherlands. Travis in Alaska #1. Thank you to Stephanie Wolfgang King. Thanks to Carl. And Carl is our Spent Poets expert. Travis in Alaska #2, thank you. I can't remember which Travis in Alaska we're going to see at New Year's. Hopefully both of them. Mike Chillian, thanks for your support, Mike. Sarah Markham. Jesse Colton, he'll definitely be at New Year's. We're all crashing on his couch. Porter, hey, Porter. Anthony Del Preet, go Bills again. Josh Allen, MVP. John Shreve. David Frazier Crane. Johnny Perona. Mr. Funknificent. Thanks to Juhani Coho and Stephen Stang as well. Chris. Simon Altman, also in Australia. Thanks to Mike Tuckerman. Sculligan Val. Chris Gentile, Mr. Keith Thompson, Kevin, and the mysterious Swift, Frankie. We still don't know this story. What if, I don't know if you're up on your celebrity couples in America, Frankie, but if we have a Swift, I'm wondering if we'll also get a Kelsey. And if that's true, then I know that it's Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Supporting Primus Tracks, which would blow me away. And finally, we have to thank El Patron Numero Uno, Carlos Arizmendi. Yes, indeed. Thank you all so much for your support. Looking forward to a lot of fun in 2025. We're cooking up some stuff for 2025 on the Patreon. Thank you, Prime Matrons. Thank you to everybody who supports this podcast one way or another, whether you're spreading the word or simply just playing it really loudly to annoy others. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Later days.
Willie Mace.
48 hours to go.